Shalom. My Divrei Torah doesn't usually aim to inspire. I'm a teacher, and I find myself more comfortable educating than inspiring. In this short Dvar Torah, I hope to accomplish both. I hope these words explain the mitzvah of Simcha, of happiness on the festivals, and inspire our people past the current situation that prevents complete happiness this Pesach. Many people have been asking me, how can we recite the proclamation of the Haggadah this year? Whoever is hungry, let him come and eat. After all, we are prohibited from inviting outsiders to our Pesach Seder this year. While most rabbis decided that we say this proclamation anyway, some have even suggested omitting the invitation. There's a related but even bigger challenge confronting the Jewish people this year. Maimonides wrote that on the festivals, a person is obligated to be happy and in good spirits. He, his children, his wife, the members of his household, and all those who depend on him. As it is written in the Torah, you shall rejoice during your festivals. Maimonides continued, the rejoicing mentioned in the verse refers to the sacrifices, the korban shlomim, the peace offering. Included in this mitzvah to rejoice is that he, his children, and the members of his household should rejoice, each one, in a manner appropriate for him. Maimonides went on to explain that to fulfill the mitzvah of rejoicing on the festival, and in accordance with their nature, men should drink wine and eat meat, women should buy new jewelry and clothes, and children should Maimonides cautioned, though, when a person eats and drinks as part of his rejoicing during the festival, he is obligated to also feed the converts, orphans, widows, and others who are destitute and poor. In contrast, a person who locks the door of his home, eats and drinks with his children and his wife without feeding the poor and the destitute, is not fulfilling the rejoicing associated with a mitzvah, but rather the rejoicing of his gut. Maimonides, quoting the prophet Hosea, had harsh words for such a person. Their offerings will be like the bread of mourners. All that partake thereof shall become impure, for they kept their bread for themselves alone. This happiness is a disgrace for them. Maimonides added, one who brings happiness to the hearts of those unfortunate individuals resembles the divine presence, which the prophet Isaiah described as having the tendency to revive the spirit of the lowly and to revive those with broken hearts. We are told that it is dangerous to invite others to our Pesach Seder this year. We are prohibited from inviting guests, including the converts, the orphans, the widows, and all others who are destitute and poor. How then can we fulfill the mitzvah of rejoicing on Pesach if we cannot invite guests to our house? How can we rejoice while locking the doors to our home? How can we be happy knowing that others are sitting alone? I grew up in a special place. Fair Lawn, New Jersey is known for its chesed and its hospitality. I didn't spend each Pesach at a fancy hotel, but I saw a Pesach program in action at Rabbi and Rebbetzin Yuden's house each year. The Yuden Hotel served hundreds of people over Pesach. Converts, orphans, widows, and others who are destitute and poor were regulars at the Yuden house. They were treated like kings at the Seder. My parents were so giving that when I went to yeshiva, my bedroom was given away to the assistant rabbis serving our synagogue. And my in-laws constantly hosted local Israelis visiting a nearby Air Force base and even took in foster children. My wife is a hostess par excellence, and I'm having trouble imagining a Seder and a festival meal without guests this year. This year will be our first Seder and festival in over 20 years of marriage without guests. It simply isn't a Chag Sameach, a joyous festival, without guests. How can it be? To answer the question from a legal perspective, the mitzvah of rejoicing on the festival requires hosting guests. But having guests isn't what makes us happy. Studying Torah and prayer, eating meat, drinking wine, Having new clothes and candy makes us happy. The hosting guests doesn't inhibit joy, it inhibits the proper joy that is required. What negates the obligatory joy is choosing to close our doors to those who need a place in our home. This year, we aren't choosing to close our door, we are forced to keep to ourselves. It's beyond our control. But is that it then? Are we fated to not have the proper Simcha, the joy, this year at Pesach? Is that really where we're at? I'd like to suggest that we can still fulfill the mitzvah of rejoicing on the Chag. We can call someone we know that's going to be alone this Pesach, and we can call them on Erev Pesach. We can spend a few hours of the day tomorrow lifting the spirits of people we know who will be alone this year at the Seder. Let's send them flowers. Let's make their Erev Pesach so happy that their joy carries over to the festival. Let's make sure that they're so happy that even as they sit alone at their Seder, they know they're not alone. Let's tell them that we will be thinking of them at our Seder. Let them know that they're not forgotten. Let them know that they might be geographically distant, but they're so close where it counts in our hearts. If we spend just a few hours this Erev Pesach making calls to the people who we would have invited over to our Seder, to our Yom Tov table, if we would tell them some of the Divrei Torah that we'll be telling at our table, if we joke around with them, if we tell them how much they mean to us, they'll know they're loved, and they too will rejoice this festival, and so will we. Chag Sameach.